After suffering an accident, my parents went to Rome, leaving me stranded in the hospital. We're in Rome, enjoying ourselves with your sister. Don't bother us, my mom screamed at me. So I decided not to bother them, but I blocked my credit card, canceled the hotel, and when they realized, they called me terrified. People always say that family is the most important thing. But no one warns you that sometimes family is the rope that slowly tightens around your neck until you can't breathe. Isabel walked firmly down the street, her gaze fixed on the screen of her phone where she was checking her bank account for the 10th time that day. The number that appeared wasn't surprising, but it was suffocating. Barely enough to cover the gas bill, Kadia's therapy, and the week's food. Her own expenses were once again relegated to the very bottom of the list. She pressed her lips together and put the phone in her coat pocket, trying to ignore the knot in her stomach that she had been feeling for months, maybe years. The sound of the city surrounded her, impatient honks, murmurs from pedestrians, the echo of hurried footsteps on the sidewalk. Everything seemed to move at an unstoppable rhythm, like a machine where every gear was doing its job. Everyone moved forward. Everyone, except her. Isabel. Her mother's high-pitched voice snapped her out of her thoughts the moment she crossed the door of her house. There was no greeting, only a demand disguised as urgency. "Did you pay for your sister's therapy?" "Yes," she replied, taking off her coat with calculated movements. "Good, because if you hadn't, I don't know what we would have done. Kadia already has enough with what she's going through." What Kadia was going through was an ego crisis. Isabel held back the words that were fighting to come out and chose to nod while dropping her things on the sofa. Kadia appeared in the doorway of the living room, wearing branded sportswear, phone in hand, with a look of annoyance. "Tell me you also paid for the internet," she said without bothering to look up. "Yes, thank goodness. I couldn't live without it." "You couldn't live without it, but you could live without a job," Isabel murmured softly, though not softly enough for Kadia not to hear. The older sister looked up, her dark eyes narrowing like a predator who's just been provoked. "What did you say?" "Nothing," Isabel said, feeling the tension compressing her chest. "No, it wasn't nothing. Are you implying I should take any random job just because I don't have a paycheck right now?" "It's not that I'm implying," Isabel answered, this time clearly. "It's been more than a year, Kadia. How much longer are you going to wait?" "I won't settle for anything, Isabel. I have standards. And you think I don't?" The silence that settled was so heavy that Isabel could feel it on her skin. Her mother was the first to break it with an exaggerated sigh. "Why do you always have to do this, Isabel? Your sister is going through a difficult time, and you just add to her stress." "No, Mom," Isabel said, feeling the anger build in her chest, boiling just below the surface. "I'm the one going through a hard time. I'm the only one holding this house up." Her mother clicked her tongue disapprovingly, as if Isabel had just said the most ridiculous thing in the world. "My God, what an exaggeration. You have a stable job, you're doing fine. What's it to you to help your family? What's it to me? It costs me everything. My savings, my plans, my peace of mind. But of course, none of that matters because as long as Kadia is comfortable, everything's fine, right?" Her sister's face twisted into a reflection of pure contempt. "If it bothers you so much to help, stop doing it." The remark, thrown with the intent to hurt, didn't have the desired effect. Isabel smiled, though there was no joy in her expression. "That's the difference between you and me, Kadia. I can't afford to be selfish." She didn't wait for a response. She grabbed her bag and went to her room before her mother could say anything else. She slammed the door with a little more force than necessary and pressed her forehead against the wood, trying to hold back the tears that were threatening to spill. It had always been like that. Always. Since she was a child, when her parents forced her to give her toys to Kadia because she was the oldest and needed to learn to share. Then, in her teenage years, when her mother gave her sister the best things because she would appreciate them more. Now, as an adult, her only role in the family was to be the silent provider, the one who sacrificed everything without expecting anything in return. But Isabel's patience had a limit, and that limit was starting to crack. That night, while the muffled sound of the television came from the living room, Isabel opened her laptop and searched for flights. Rome. A trip for her parents. A gesture to show them that, despite everything, she still cared about their well-being. Maybe, just maybe, with this effort, they would look at her differently. She booked the hotel, organized the excursions, planned every detail with the precision of someone used to controlling everything. And although she couldn't know it at the time, that trip would be the last time she tried to prove her worth. Because soon she would discover that to them, she had always been nothing more than a means to get what they wanted. The day had been hell. Isabel walked out of her office with a clenched jaw and stiff shoulders. She had dealt with difficult clients, urgent emails, and endless calls that reminded her once again that her life revolved around other people's needs. When she finally shut down her computer and left the building, she felt the weight of the week in every muscle of her body. The air of the city was thick with the smell of gasoline and fresh rain. She walked to the parking lot with a scattered mind, going over the never-ending list of responsibilities waiting for her at home. Kadia's therapy payment, the bills, the dinner she'd probably have to make because no one else would. Her life was calculated to the millimeter, a puzzle where every piece fit perfectly, as long as she made sure to hold it all together. Her phone vibrated in the pocket of her coat. She took it out without thinking and saw the notification on the screen, a message from Kadia. "Why did you book a 4-star hotel and not 5? Isabel felt a lump in her throat. "No, thank you, no. What a nice gesture, no, I appreciate it. Just another complaint." She got in the car and left the phone on the passenger seat, not replying. She rubbed her temple, trying to clear her mind. Started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot. The city lights shimmered in the night, reflecting off the rain-dampened windshield. Her thoughts were scattered, trapped in the suffocating feeling of living a life that didn't belong to her. The phone vibrated again. Another message. "I hope you picked good restaurants. I don't want to eat tourist trash." Isabel gripped the steering wheel tightly. Another message. "If I were you, I'd be worried. You're investing in something you're not going to enjoy. Don't you think I deserve this trip more than anyone?" Her eyes briefly slid to the phone screen. And that second was enough. A blaring horn. A brutal impact. The world spun violently around her. The sound of the heart monitor was the first thing she heard. Isabel felt herself floating between consciousness and sleep. A sharp pain pierced her body, as if every fiber of her being were broken or out of place. Voices. Lacerations on the left leg, fractured ribs. Pressure is still dropping. Take her to surgery immediately. She tried to speak, but her mouth was dry. She couldn't move her lips. Everything faded into a black shroud. She slowly opened her eyes. The hospital light was white and cold, impersonal. The smell of disinfectant and medications filled the air. A constant beep marked the rhythm of her breathing. She slightly moved her head and saw her parents on the other side of the room. There were no tears on their faces. No anguish, just impatience. Her mother was checking the time on her phone, and her father had his arms crossed. "What happened?" Her voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. Her mother looked up and sighed. "You had an accident." There was no sweetness in her words, no hint of real concern. "How long have I been here?" "Since last night," her father replied with a dry tone. "Kadia?" Her mother shrugged. She didn't want to come. She says hospitals give her anxiety. The air in the room became unbearable. Isabel felt a knot in her chest, a pain different from the physical one. "And you? Will you stay?" Her father's answer was like a cold blade on her skin. "We can't cancel the trip, Isabel. It's already paid for." The silence was absolute. The blow was stronger than the impact of the car against her body. "What?" Her mother sighed with annoyance. "It doesn't make sense to waste the tickets. Besides, Kadia has been very stressed this year. She needs that trip. She needs that trip. Not you. It doesn't matter that you're in a hospital bed with fractures and bruises with a broken body. The only thing that matters is that Kadia needs that trip." Isabel swallowed, her mouth as dry as a desert. "Can't you postpone it?" Her father shook his head. "We're not going to lose the reservation because of this, Isabel." Her lips trembled. something inside her broke. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't anger. It was something darker. It was the absolute certainty that her family had never seen her as anything more than a means to get what they wanted. Her parents exchanged a few more words about the trip without looking at her. They said a cold, "We'll see you when we get back," and left the room. Not a kiss. Not a stroke on the forehead. Nothing. Isabel watched the door close behind them and realized that, to them, it had never mattered. Never. She turned her gaze to her phone on the nightstand. She took a deep breath. And for the first time in her life, she decided she wasn't going to just sit by. They weren't going to enjoy that trip. That, she swore. The dim light of the hospital cast long shadows on the walls, and the heart monitor emitted a rhythmic beat that seemed to cruelly mark the passage of time. Isabel hadn't closed her eyes in hours. Every time she tried, the same scene played out in her mind. Her father's cold voice, her mother's indifference, Kadia's absence. "We can't cancel the trip. Kadia has been very stressed this year. She needs that trip." A flash of anger coursed through her body. She had been lying in that bed, broken, while they packed their bags and left for Rome without looking back. She imagined them on the plane, comfortable in their seats, with their carefully organized itineraries, all paid for with her money. It was a thought that churned her stomach. Slowly, she slid her hand toward the nightstand and picked up her phone. Her fingers, trembling from weakness, unlocked the screen. The hotel reservations, the tickets for the excursions, the dinners at exclusive restaurants, everything was just a click away from disappearing. The power of a decision. A silent act, no shouting, no confrontations. Just justice. Justice for herself. Her lips curled into a weak but determined smile as she began canceling each of the reservations. The confirmation notifications came one after another with every cancellation, like small personal victories. Hotel canceled. Excursions canceled. Restaurant reservations erased. She closed her eyes and exhaled. For the first time in her life, she wasn't being the responsible daughter. She wasn't sacrificing herself for them to be happy. They didn't deserve anything she had given them. Hours later, at the airport in Rome, Kadia stretched lazily as she exited through the gate. Her mother walked beside her, a satisfied expression on her face. The trip promised to be exactly what they needed. Rest, luxury, an escape from the routine. Her father was checking his phone, making sure the hotel information was in order. When they reached the taxi stand, he took out his wallet and looked at his wife with assurance. "The hotel is 20 minutes from here." Isabel made a good choice. Her mother nodded disinterestedly as Kadia checked her phone. She had ignored Isabel's messages throughout the flight, but now, for the first time in a long time, she felt curious about how she was doing. She opened the chat, and the first thing she saw was the last message. "If I were you, I'd be worried. You're investing in something you won't enjoy. Don't you think I deserve this trip more than anyone?" She furrowed her brow. There was no reply from Isabel, just an uncomfortable void in the conversation. She sighed and swiped the notification aside. She took a step toward the taxi, but then her mother exclaimed something that made her stop. "What does this mean?" Her tone shifted in an instant, from calm to alarm. Her father looked at her in confusion before pulling out his own phone and checking the hotel app. "This can't be." Kadia furrowed her brow and quickly pulled out her phone. She opened her email and felt a chill run down her spine when she saw the notification on the screen. "Reservation canceled." "No, it can't be." Her mother's gaze turned sharp. What the hell is going on? Her father clenched his lips, jaw tense, and dialed the hotel number. He brought the phone to his ear, pacing in circles as he listened to the automated recording telling him that their reservation had been canceled and there were no available rooms. Who the hell did this? He growled. The silence that followed was almost palpable. Kadia swallowed hard, frantically swiping her finger across her phone until she opened the booking app. One by one, the cancellation notifications appeared in her inbox. Sistine Chapel tour, canceled. Tuscany tour, canceled. Dinner at Isle Marchese, canceled. Hotel, canceled. Her mother's face twisted into a grimace of disbelief. "This can't be. This must be a mistake." "This isn't a mistake," Katia said, her voice venomous. She dialed Isabel's number angrily and put the phone to her ear. Call rejected. She tried again. Nothing. A shiver ran down her spine as she realized what was happening. "That damn," she whispered, gritting her teeth. Her mother snatched the phone from her and tried again. Isabel didn't answer. The rage made her throw the phone into the empty taxi. "She ruined our trip." Her father, who had remained silent during the entire chaos, exhaled heavily and pulled out his own cell phone. "I'll fix this. She can't leave us stranded in another country." He dialed. The call wasn't rejected, but Isabel didn't answer. Rage bubbled in her chest. At the hospital, Isabel stared at her phone screen with indifference. Each incoming call was like a melody of justice. Her mother, Katia, her father, one after another, one after another. She ignored them all. As the ringtone echoed in the room, she felt a strange calm, almost pleasant. For the first time in her life, she had control. A gentle knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. "May I come in?" It was Marta, one of her coworkers. She was holding a bag of food in her hand, a sincere smile on her face. "You didn't have to come," Isabel whispered, her voice still raspy. Marta shrugged and placed the bag on the table. "We're friends, right? Who else would bring decent food to this hospital?" Isabel felt a lump in her throat. Her coworkers had been the only ones to care about her. For the past few days, she hadn't been alone for even a second. Organized visiting shifts, little gifts, words of encouragement. They had proven to be more family than her own blood. While Marta talked about trivial things to distract her, Isabel grabbed her phone once more. A notification caught her attention. A voicemail from her mother. She hesitated for a moment. Her finger slid to the play button. But before doing so, something inside her stopped her. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth listening to more insults, more manipulations, more attempts to make her feel guilty. She simply deleted the message without listening to it. She took a deep breath. She had spent her whole life trying to be the perfect daughter. But she wasn't her daughter anymore. It wasn't her problem anymore. The hospital had a heavy air that night. The fluorescent lights cast cold shadows on the walls, and the murmur of nurses floated in the air. Isabel sat on her bed, staring blankly at the screen of her phone. For days, her family hadn't stopped trying to contact her. Messages demanding explanations, calls filled with insults, audios she hadn't had the patience to listen to. They all had one thing in common. No one asked how she was. Her friends' visits had kept her sane. Her boss had made sure the insurance covered all her medical expenses, and her coworkers organized shifts to ensure she was never alone. They brought her coffee, magazines, decent food. Some sat silently beside her, without the need for words, but transmitting a genuine support she had never received from her own family. While checking notifications on her phone, a nurse entered the room. She looked uncomfortable, as if she was about to say something she would rather avoid. "Isabel, your parents are here. And your sister too." Isabel's heart didn't react. It didn't race, it didn't beat harder. She felt nothing. She was ready. "I don't want to see them." The nurse hesitated. "They say it's urgent." "There is nothing urgent they can tell me. They want to come in anyway." "Then call security." The nurse looked at her in surprise, but didn't argue. She left the room, and a few seconds later, the loud noise of enraged voices filled the hallway. Isabel heard her mother shouting at the nurse, demanding to be let in, her father trying to assert his authority with his deep voice, and Katia hurling insults that wouldn't have surprised her if she still cared. The door slammed open before security could intervene. Her mother entered first, her face contorted with anger. Behind her, Katia and her father walked with heavy steps, as if they were ready for a violent confrontation. "How dare you?" Her mother exploded, approaching the bed with eyes blazing with fury. "How dare you do this to us?" Isabel didn't answer. She didn't even look up from her phone. "You left us on the street," Katia shouted, her hands trembling with rage. In another country, without a hotel, without food, without anything. You humiliated us." Her father walked up to the bed and pointed a finger at Isabel. "You're going to fix this right now. You're going to transfer the money you made us lose. And you're going to apologize." Isabel finally looked up. She did it calmly, without rushing, as if she were looking at strangers. "Apologies?" Her mother slammed her hand on the table next to the bed. "You have no shame. You betrayed us. Your own family." "Family?" Isabel repeated with a cold smile. "How funny. I thought family was the ones who stayed by your side when you're in the hospital with fractures and open wounds. Stop playing the victim." Claudia stepped forward with a venomous look. "You've always been resentful, always trying to play the martyr." Isabel looked at her with something like compassion. "No, I just stopped being your servant." Her sister's face transformed into a mask of pure hatred. "You ruined my life." Isabel let out a short, dry laugh. "Me? I ruined your life? You made me go through the worst experience of my life. In another country, without money, without a place to sleep. I made you pay for the first time in your life that you had to face consequences." Her mother slammed the table again. "You're a damn selfish." "I'm selfish?" Isabel repeated, feeling the anger boiling in her chest. "Me, who paid for your house, your food, your clothes, Claudia's therapy, while you did absolutely nothing." Her father tried to speak, but Isabel interrupted him with a coldness she had never shown before. "It's over." The silence that settled in the room was sharp. Her mother blinked as if she hadn't heard right. "What did you say?" Isabel slowly sat up in the bed, not taking her eyes off them. "It's over. You won't call me. You won't write to me. You won't receive another cent from me. I won't pay your bills, your food, your therapy. I won't solve your life anymore." Her mother's disbelief turned into a bitter laugh. "You're not serious." Isabel picked up her phone and calmly swiped the screen. "Look." Her mother leaned in, and her expression changed when she saw the confirmation messages on the screen. Rent payment, canceled. Electricity and gas bill, canceled. Claudia's therapy payment, canceled. "You can't do this." Her mother tried to snatch the phone from her, but Isabel easily pulled it away. "I already did." Claudia seemed to lose her breath. "You're leaving me without therapy. You can get a job and pay for it yourself." Her sister's face turned red with rage. "You're a monster." Isabel tilted her head with dangerous calmness. "I'm free." Her father clenched his fists. "You're going to ruin us." "No, you ruined yourselves." Her mother took a step back, breathing heavily. "If you think you're going to get away with this." Isabel looked at her without emotion. "What are you going to do?" "I'll tell everyone who you really are." Claudia smiled maliciously. "Yeah, I'll post everything, so everyone can see what you did." Isabel blinked, uninterested. "Do it." Her mother stood still. "What?" "Do it. Post whatever you want." The confusion on their faces was almost amusing. Sooner or later, people will ask why a daughter threw her own family out on the street. And when they answer, they'll find out I supported them for years. Claudia pressed her lips together. "You're dead to me. That frees me." Isabel looked at the door and, with a firm voice, said the last thing she would ever say to them in her life. "Out!" None of the three moved. She took her phone and dialed a number. "Security, please." Her mother muttered a curse under her breath and left the room. Her father followed behind, with a look that tried to be stern but only showed his desperation. Claudia was the last to leave. Before crossing the door, she turned to look at her with utter contempt. "You'll be alone." Isabel smiled with absolute calm. "Not anymore." Claudia scoffed and disappeared down the hallway. The door closed, and with it, the entire weight of her past. Isabel took a deep breath and, for the first time in her life, felt what it was like to be at peace. The days passed, and the air in the hospital room felt lighter. Without the constant interruptions from her family, Isabel could finally rest without being startled. She had spent too much time trapped in a toxic dynamic, giving every part of herself to people who never valued her. But that was over. Now, as she watched the dim light filtering through the curtains, she felt for the first time in her life something resembling peace. Her friends had been a pillar in her recovery. Every day, someone came to visit. Marta brought her books, Daniel brought coffee from her favorite cafe, and her boss, surprisingly, had sent flowers with a simple but meaningful note. Work can wait. You can't. Isabel had never expected to receive so much affection. She was used to giving, not receiving. And she still found it hard to believe that these people, with no blood ties to her, cared more about her well-being than those who brought her into this world. She shifted slightly in the bed, feeling discomfort in her ribs, but ignoring it. She took her phone and checked her notifications. Missed calls from her mother and Katia. Unread messages. She didn't open them. There was nothing they could say that was worth hearing. She sighed and opened her news app. She needed a distraction. That's when she saw the post. Her blood ran cold. A picture of her mother, with a look full of feigned sadness, accompanied by a text that seemed taken from a cheap soap opera. It's hard when family turns its back on you. At the most difficult moment of our lives, my own daughter abandoned us. She left us on the streets in a foreign country, not caring what would happen to us. We raised an ungrateful child who knows neither love nor loyalty. It hurts us, but God sees everything. He will bring justice. Isabel felt the heat rise to her face. Not from sadness, but from pure, burning anger. She wasn't surprised by the manipulation, but seeing it exposed on social media, in front of hundreds of people who didn't know the truth, made her stomach turn. The comments started pouring in. Some showed sympathy. That must be so painful, ma'am. I hope your daughter reflects on this. Others were more aggressive. What a shame that children like this exist. If I did that, my mom would disown me. Isabel felt helplessness tighten her chest. Her mother had created a perfect narrative in which she was the monster, the villain without a heart who had betrayed her family. And the worst part was that people believed it. She put the phone down on her lap and closed her eyes. Her breathing was heavy, but her mind worked with clarity. She wouldn't play her game. She wouldn't respond with another dramatic post. If her mother wanted to manipulate, she would let the truth speak for itself. A message arrived on her phone. It was from her Aunt Lucia. Don't worry, Isabel. We'll take care of it. She raised her eyebrows, unsure of what that meant. But in less than 10 minutes, she understood. Her aunt, cousin, and other relatives began commenting on her mother's post, refuting the story. One by one, they revealed the truth. Seriously, you're talking about abandonment when Isabel paid absolutely everything in that house for over a year? You left her at the hospital to go on vacation with the money SHE paid. Don't lie. Your daughter almost died, and the only thing you cared about was not losing your hotel reservation. Now you're playing the victim. The comments multiplied. What started as a blatant manipulation was turning into her own public trial. The post began to lose support. Some people who initially defended her mother started deleting their comments or responding with doubt. If this is true, then the story changes quite a bit. Does anyone have proof of what they're saying? It didn't take long before someone posted screenshots of Isabel's bank transfers, the payments she had made over the past year. The truth could no longer be ignored. Her mother, who had expected sympathy, found herself cornered. Isabel watched it all with a strange feeling. She hadn't planned for a digital war, but there it was. And she hadn't had to do anything. The truth, finally, was speaking for itself. The climax came when her mother responded to a comment with frustration. I'm not going to discuss this with strangers on the internet. And seconds later, the post was gone. Deleted. Isabel put the phone aside and exhaled. The manipulation had failed. She closed her eyes and felt a deep sense of relief. Not because her mother had lost the battle on social media, but because for the first time in her life, the truth had defended her without her needing to exert any effort. The peace didn't last long. Her phone vibrated with a new message. It was from her mother. We can still talk if you think it over. Isabel smiled. She wasn't going to reconsider. Because this time, she was free. The sound of the hospital door sliding shut automatically marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Isabel stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the fresh air that contrasted with the cold, sterile environment she'd been immersed in for weeks. She had been waiting for this moment with a mix of excitement and caution. She didn't know exactly how she'd feel leaving that place, but one thing was clear: she wasn't the same woman who had walked in. A familiar sound pulled her out of her thoughts. Isabel. She looked up and saw Marta, Daniel, and a few of her coworkers standing by her car, holding balloons and a banner that had been made in a hurry, but with genuine affection. "Welcome to your new life." Her chest tightened. She never would have imagined someone would do something like this for her. She walked toward them slowly, still feeling the discomfort of her healing wounds, but with a warmth in her heart she hadn't felt in a long time. "You didn't have to do this," she murmured, though the smile on her face betrayed her words. "Of course we did," Marta replied, hugging her carefully. "We care about you, Isabel." Daniel handed her a box with her favorite coffee. "We wanted to make sure the first thing you drank was something decent, not the hospital's poison." Isabel laughed softly, feeling that, for the first time in a long time, she belonged somewhere. Her apartment was spotless when she arrived. She had expected to find the usual mess of a home abandoned for weeks, but instead, the smell of fresh flowers and freshly baked bread welcomed her. "Deep clean, courtesy of the team," Marta said, crossing her arms proudly. "And there's food in the fridge." "We're not letting you starve," added Daniel. Isabel blinked, feeling emotion rise in her throat. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just rest," Marta replied, winking at her. When her friends left, Isabel stayed in the center of the room, looking at her home with new eyes. It was no longer a refuge where she hid from problems or a pass-through space between work and family obligations. Now it was hers. Her place. Her life. She sank into the couch, letting herself relax into the comforting silence of her own existence. There were no shouts, no demands, no calls that tied her to a cycle of sacrifices. Just peace. And peace tasted sweet. Returning to work was easier than she expected. Her coworkers greeted her with hugs and jokes about how much they'd missed her. Her boss assured her that she didn't need to worry about making up for lost time. "Your health is a priority, Isabel. We're not going to pressure you." For the first time in her life, she felt what it was like to be valued without having to break into pieces to deserve it. Days passed, and with them, something inside her started to change. She found herself enjoying little pleasures she'd previously denied herself, sleeping in on a Sunday, buying something for herself without guilt, reading a book without the constant feeling that she should be doing something productive. Her phone kept ringing insistently, but now she didn't look at it with anxiety. Her parents and Katia were trying to contact her, their messages ranging from manipulative pleas to venom-filled reproaches. She didn't answer any of them. Every time she saw her mother's name on the screen, she remembered the phrase from the last message she had sent: "We can still talk if you reconsider." But she had nothing to reconsider. One afternoon, while checking her email, she saw a message from a travel agency with a promotion for Rome. Something inside her clicked. She opened the page and started planning the trip of her dreams. The same hotel she'd booked for her parents. The same excursions they never got to enjoy. The same restaurants that her sister had despised without even stepping foot in them. Except this time, it would be for her. The airport was filled with murmurs and farewells, but Isabel walked with an unfamiliar lightness. She passed through security without any issues, holding her passport in one hand and her ticket in the other. Just before boarding, her phone vibrated in her pocket. A new message. "You can't ignore us forever." Isabel looked at the screen for a second and then swiped to block the number. She turned off her phone and put it in her bag. She took a deep breath and looked at the gate in front of her. It was her turn. She smiled for the first time in a long while and moved forward without looking back. What an emotional ending. I'm glad you made it this far. Stories like these show the human capacity to overcome adversity and find the strength to move forward, despite the toughest circumstances. If you found yourself in a similar situation, facing betrayal and such great challenges, how would you confront it? What decisions would you make to protect your loved ones and rebuild your life? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to know how you'd handle such a complex challenge and what you think of the development of this story. Also, if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends and family. Your support is essential to keep bringing more emotional and reflective stories like this one. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Don't miss the next narrative appearing on your screen. We have many captivating stories and guaranteed entertainment specially for you. See you in the next video. A hug.